Buffer ETFs have been one of the highest growing product lines in finance. According to ETF Action, Q1 of 2025 registered over $5 billion of inflows into buffer products. And there doesn't seem to be any sign of these products slowing down. So if you're thinking of investing in a buffer ETF, or honestly any financial product, it's important to understand what you're actually getting into, what the benefits and risks are, so that you can form a portfolio that actually does what you want it to do. In our last two videos, we went over what buffer ETFs are, how they work, how they're built, and pointed out the biggest problem with buffer ETFs as I see them. In short, while buffers try to mitigate some amount of losses, they do not address what is arguably the most salient issue in risk management, and that is managing left tail risk. Every now and then, there seems to be these earth-shattering events that swallow portfolios whole. Think Black Monday in 1987, September 2008, and March 2020. These fast crashes are not only scary, but potentially hazardous, especially for risk-averse investors who may think they're being protected, but are actually not. This could lead them to sell at the worst possible time and potentially lose on any rebounds out of fear that things are just going to get much worse. Additionally, buffer ETFs also cap right tail returns. Think of those years when it seems like nothing can stop the market. Think of 2017, the only year in recorded history where the US market went up every single month. Missing out on these returns could also be extremely painful. So there should be something at the portfolio level that addresses this issue too. So what should a buffer ETF investor do about these two scenarios? In this video, we'll go over some potential answers to these questions so that you have the information you need to build better portfolios. Lastly, as a fun exercise, we'll also explore what you can do if you want buffer-like exposures without investing in buffers directly. But let's start off with the left tail problem. What can you do about these fast crashes that seem to come out of nowhere? The first answer here is actually pretty straightforward, and that is to buy assets that are specifically targeted to address these events. Specifically, assets that target highly convex payoffs when the you-know-what hits the fan. This is what we call tail hedging. We've made a series of videos on tail hedging, so make sure to check that out if you want to familiarize yourself with the strategy. But in short, most tail hedging strategies buy deep out of the money puts to bet that the market will dive and can receive handsome payoffs in case it does. The issue with buying these puts is that most of the time they will expire worthless and can represent a huge return drag to your portfolio. But that is to be expected. If you want to potentially receive insurance-like payoffs, you have to pay insurance premiums. Another issue is that these put options are extremely path dependent. So even if you're directionally right and are betting that the market will go down, these puts could still lose money if you get unlucky with the timing. Meaning, depending on when the option expires, when you buy it, how you decide to rebalance, exercise, or sell, you will receive wildly different results. In short, while tail hedging is not an easy thing to do, especially for DIYers, it still probably is the more reliable strategy to use. Regardless, in order to hedge your tail in buffer portfolios, there are two main things that you can do. First, you can close your eyes and just buy puts or products that buy puts and embrace the path dependency and portfolio bleed to hopefully address the left tail event. Or secondly, you can attempt to control for this portfolio bleed, whether that's by buying a product that seeks to reduce the bleed or by implementing a DIY strategy that seeks to do the same. If doing this by yourself sounds hard, that's because it is. So here are a few thoughts of other strategies that you could implement that, while they are not as reliable as tail hedging, could approximate these returns and attempt to address the left tail. The first is trend following. By buying what's working and selling what's not, you may catch a wave that could diversify your portfolio when it's most needed. The next is QMG, or quality minus junk. By investing in quality assets and shorting the yucky stuff, you might just capture a flight to quality trend in the midst of turmoil. Lastly, implement an anti-beta strategy. Go long what is stable and short the volatile stuff. Here too, you are seeking to hedge that tail by betting that investors will flee volatility, which, funny enough, might cause more volatility. If you happen to be on the right end of that trade, things might just work out in your favor. Lastly, let's go over what you can do about the right tail. This issue here is much easier to solve. If the problem with buffer ETFs is that they cap the right tail, just add exposures that are not capped. Simply put, buy equity. I believe this combination of tail hedging assets and uncapped equity could complement buffer strategies well. But what if you want to replace buffer-like payoffs without specifically targeting buffer ETFs? Here's something fun you could do. In the 2025 AQR paper, Rebuffed, a closer look at options-based strategies, Cliff Asness and Daniel Villalon find that most buffer strategies can be reconstructed by combining equity and T-bills. So let's put that to the test. Here you can see that by investing 50% in US large cap and 50% in cash, investors have historically approximated the returns of US buffer ETFs since 2019. And this should make sense. After all, buffer ETFs have historically exhibited low volatility returns, much if one were to mix equity with cash. The important lesson here is that investors should go past the surface level pitch of structured products and really ask themselves, what is this asset actually doing for me at the portfolio level? Is there any way to replicate this in a more cost-efficient manner? The answer to that, I believe, is the beginning of better portfolio construction for evidence-based investors. Here at Alpha Architect, our goal is to empower investors through education. We're an asset management firm that focuses on delivering affordable alpha to our clients. If you want more educational content like this, head to alphaarchitect.com. I'll see you there.